Good afternoon, everybody. My name is Inga Cotton. I'm the founder and executive director of San Antonio Charter Moms, and these are Charter Moms Chats, and we've been going live on weekdays to explain to families things that can help them to keep their kids learning and happy and safe during the pandemic. And we've been bringing on guests with expert advice, and I'm so proud that today we have Raya Belton, who's the teacher behind Stellar Students. And she's joining us from Austin, where she's a public elementary school teacher, but she has experience teaching at a charter school here in San Antonio. And she has her degree in elementary education from the University of Texas at Austin. So.
Yes, hi, thank you for having me. Welcome
forward. So I wanted to talk to you about, I want to mention there's a guest post that you wrote for SA Charter Moms, and it's on the blog, and there's a link to it in the description of the video. So if anyone is coming across the video first, they can click on the link in the description and they can read the whole blog post. I really encourage them to, because it's got some great advice about like tips from stellar students. But what I wanted on the video today was to have you kind of talk about your background and talk about what Stellar Students does, and then explain about these tips and how they're going to help families deal with. I mean, it's just a really tough situation that teachers and families are in during the pandemic. So, but first I want to talk about your background. So when did you kind of realize that you wanted to be, maybe you want to be a teacher when you grow up?
So I've always known that I was going to be a teacher. Even back like when I was in kindergarten, I always knew that I was going to be a kindergarten teacher. And then I also have two younger sisters, one that's 4 years younger than me, and then I have another one that's 9 years younger than me. And I think back on it now, and it's so funny because my sister that's 4 years younger than me, she hated playing school with me. She hated it. And then I had my the youngest sister that loved it. So I always say that gave me great experience because, in a classroom, there's always the kids that love coming to school, love what you're doing. And then there's the kids that need you to do a tap dance for them in order to get learning. So, yeah, I've always known that I was going to be a teacher.
That's awesome. So what inspired you to found Stellar Students as a way to provide like enrichment?
So as y'all know, I'm a former charter school teacher. And during my time at the charter school, I was praised for my ability to individualize my teaching and push each kid to their own maximum potential. And I think as adults, we don't give kids enough credit. They are so smart and so capable of far more than we normally allow them. And just like thinking about it, babies know how to use iPads now. I have a 2-year-old niece and she knows how to work an iPad. So just imagine with the right guidance and support what they can do once they get into school. So that's why I created Stellar Students, to be that push that the students need to take their learning and their growth to the next level.
Yeah, no, that's wonderful. I'm really glad you're using your creativity for that goal. It's really important. So one of the things in your guest post that really struck me is that I feel like you have a really good sense of what the challenges that teachers are facing in the 2020-21 school year. And I was wondering if you could talk about that, and also kind of what you're observing about the challenges that families are dealing with, since a lot of them have kids at home or they're just experiencing school in a very different way this year.
Yeah, this year is unlike anything ever before. But I think the word challenge doesn't even begin to cover what teachers are going through this school year. We're already a profession that's underpaid and overworked in a normal year. So then throwing in a pandemic, I would say we're more in survival mode at this point. But of course, teachers are resilient and our students are staying healthy. And they might not be learning everything that we normally teach in a school year, but they are learning something. And that's all we can ask for right now. And then for the challenges for families, that one is a completely new territory because the parents are being asked to become co-teachers, but they weren't given training. They didn't go to school to do that. And some of the activities don't have the guidance that they need to make their help as effective as it could be. So that's a challenge. And then I also see that another challenge is the internal struggle of the parent. They want so much for their kid. And this year it's not the same. So they want their kid to be healthy. They want their kid to learn as much as they can. But just like teachers, we're in survival mode. So I ask parents to give yourself a break. Give yourself some, what's the word?
Grace. Grace is a word that I hear a lot.
Grace. Yes. Give yourself some grace. We can only do so much right now. And then once this does pass, because it will, hopefully soon, but once it does pass, then we can go back and fill in those gaps and make sure that everyone's better than where we are right now.
Yeah. Well, it helps to talk it through. It helps to talk. Like the observations that you're making, and then like in the San Antonio Charter Moms discussion group on Facebook, where we can share memes, but we can also like share our fears and what we're worried about. And like you said, like we as parents, we want our kids to keep progressing, but we know there's just limits on what they can do this year because of the circumstances are so different. And it's stressful. It's discouraging because it feels like rate, and this year the rate is different, but before the call started, but like someday, right, like what's our wish list of places to fly to, and we'll be able to travel again, and kids will be able to gather in classrooms and do projects together, and that time will come.
Parties. I miss the class parties.
Oh yeah, even just simple things like birthday cupcakes, right? And we can't.
Yes, birthday cupcakes, or even using manipulatives without having to deep sanitize between each kid. Just it'll go back to normal. And all we can do is give ourselves grace. I don't see a point in thinking that you're a bad parent or that you're not doing enough, because there's not much that we can do right now.
Yeah, we're just in survival mode for now.
Yes,
but things will get better. Yeah.
Yes,
so what I felt like was like super valuable about the blog post is that there's 3 different tips that you share. That things that families can do for at-home learning that will support their children. Again, and like, it's not to put more pressure, right? We all need to give ourselves grace. But these things, I find that it's inspiring to think about like putting these in action. And so I was wondering if we could walk through kind of each one of those. And the first one that you mentioned was it was a tip for young readers and how important it is that they learn sight words, those really high frequency words. And so what's your Stellar Students tip for helping young readers learn sight words?
I love this question. I love talking about sight words. So to help with sight words, the key is to expose them as often as possible. And so I recommend writing the sight words on a note card and then putting them in high traffic areas. And it would be even better if your student could write the word on a note card. So have them, if it's legible, have them write it on a note card, and then you can put it on a door frame. That's the first place I started in my classroom. I put it on the inside door and on the outside. And whenever they would pass through or come into the classroom, they would have to touch it and read it. And that changed the game. Like that, they were picking up so many more sight words. And then other places you can put it is maybe in the bathroom mirror when they're brushing their teeth, or by a TV screen, or around the dinner table, in the car. They're just put them all over places that your student is going to see often. And then the next step would be to tell your student to whisper the word to themselves whenever they see it. So it's not just about putting it there. They need to actually like engage with the words. So whispering it to themselves if there's no one around, or if they do see someone, they can be like, "Hey, Mom, this word is," and then read it to you. And then another tip that could help with that is that whenever the adult sees a word, you can also say it aloud to your student. So that it's kind of like checking in with them, knowing that they're reading the right word. And so I guess to get it started, what I would do is put them on a note card, lay them out in front of the kids, and make sure that they can like kind of read it. They don't need to master it in order to put it up, but they do need to know that it's the right word. Yeah. And then I also recommend switching it out like on a monthly basis.
Right. I'm thinking I might try this. So my kids are, I have a 5th grader and 8th grader. I'm thinking about what are those PSAT words? It might be a good time. That might work for us.
Yes, vocab words, exactly. Yes,
Yeah.
no, this can translate to any grade.
You just need frequency and just have a habit of engaging with the word and talking, whispering it, talking about it. Yeah. Good deal.
Yeah, and then doing that is also kind of a hands-off way where it's not like you have to sit down and find the time to go over those sight words. It's already up and it's automatic.
Yeah. So I wanted to talk about the second stellar students tip that's in the blog post, and that has to do with time management. And I thought this is a really interesting one because of the experience of distance learning is that the kids' schedules are very different than when they're on campus. So what are how do you recommend from the stellar students perspective, like improving kids' time management skills?
Yeah, so time management, especially right now, is a really crucial skill. I have my youngest sister. The reason I put it in the blog is because I was just talking to my younger sister. She's in 8th grade. Yeah, she's about to go into high school, and she was having some trouble with time management. And so I would say that time management is a personal skill. So like what works with what I was talking to my sister about might not work with your student. It kind of depends. So I would recommend going on like Pinterest or something and having some ideas and then bringing those ideas back to your kid or your student and having a respectful conversation. That is the key. Talking to them where it's not like, you're not doing this right, you need to change everything that you're doing. It really needs to be inviting or it's going to go in one ear and right out the other. So yeah, just come up with some ideas and definitely let your student lead that conversation and find tips and tricks that fit them.
Yeah. What you're talking about when you have the conversation with the student or the child about using kindness and like presenting them with options. And I actually think that I consider my time management skills still a work in progress, and I have to remember to use in my internal monologue to be kind to myself because sometimes I feel discouraged and but talking to myself in a more positive way and and thinking like, okay, well maybe if I use the cute sticky notes, maybe that'll
yeah
whatever works.
Yes, and I've tried to do agendas and I cannot that's just not for me. I definitely love having my phone and using the calendar in my phone. So that's another example of how one thing might work for someone and it doesn't work for me. So just being flexible and then providing them those options, kind of like they're still going to do it. They're still going to better their time management skills, but it makes them feel like they have a choice. So then they're more willing to do it.
Yeah, and recognizing there's more than one right answer.
Yeah. Yes, definitely. That's a good point.
And they should do what feels comfortable for them, as long as they're using a system and it gets the results. Yeah. Well, that's great advice, and that works for a range of ages, including adults too.
Yeah.
Okay, so the third stellar students tip that you included in the blog post had to do with students' mental health, and this is something that we hear a lot in feedback from our group members and readers. So, what do you recommend as tools for supporting good mental health during really tough times?
So, in the recent years, there has been an awesome push. I've seen an awesome push for mental health awareness. And as teachers, we're getting trained on ways to help students stay healthy mentally. And I've also noticed a lot of parents starting research to also help their kid. And childhood is such an emotional time. And teaching your child how to manage their emotions in a healthy way doesn't only help them now, but it leads to a mentally healthy adult life. And then just like time management, it's a personal skill. So I would recommend, again, having a respectful conversation with your child to first figure out the state of their mental health, figuring out like what makes them happy. What are they stressed out about right now? What gives them anxiety right now? And then after that, establish a healthy routine with procedures when dealing with negative emotions. And then this is another one that I was just talking to my younger sister about and we were able to come up with a 20-minute, we call it reflection and relaxation. So we came up with a routine that she completes 20 minutes each day to help her focus on the positive during this time. So it's also not just when you're feeling negative, then you need to do this. You also want to have a routine in place that will promote positivity as well.
Yeah, yeah. And like you said, it's personal, so it's gonna be a little different for each person. And it's okay to like try something and say, well, this isn't working, but and then but keep trying something new until you find something that works. I found a few years ago, a friend of mine convinced me it's like every morning, just grab a notebook and write 1 or 2 sentences, something the day before that you were happy about, you're grateful about, and it reframes my mind. And so where instead of just waking up being afraid of like, oh, what if this happens, or what if this doesn't work out, like instead I like stop and remember the positive things and the things that are, and it starts the day off right. That and a cup of green tea, and that's
yes, definitely.
Yeah. And that is, and it's like, and like you said, it's not just how to cope with negative emotions when you're in that situation, but it's also the like taking care of yourself a little bit every day so that you're more resilient. You're able to rebound when something comes at you.
Yeah. Exactly. Yeah. And I recommend like 10 to 20 minutes every day to do that.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, that's great. I'm really grateful that you put these things together, and you know it's coming from your experience, you know, as a teacher, and then also teaching your younger siblings. And
yeah, oh yeah, there's kids in all aspects of my life. I have younger siblings, I have nieces, I'm babysitting, so I'm pulling from everything.
So I was wondering if you could talk more about Stellar Students and kind of the services that you provide, and sort of what geographic areas you serve and what age ranges and things like that, and then how families can get a hold of you.
Okay, so Stellar Students is, oh, look at that banner. Stellar Students is a premium enrichment service that helps students strengthen their academic foundation, and then from there they're achieving at higher levels. And so it's ELAR, which stands for English, Language Arts, and Reading. But I'm just going to refer to it as Language Arts. So I have Language Arts program, and then I have a math program for kids as young as 2 years old, and then all the way up to 5th grade. So Stellar Students is designed to fit your schedule with an average time commitment of about an hour for language arts lessons and 30 to 45 minutes for math lessons. And those lessons are completely guided, with the goal being that students are learning the same way that they would learn if they were in my classroom pre-COVID. So that is kind of without that one-on-one support from their parents that they've gotten accustomed to over this last year. Of course, you're always welcome to watch and support when you have time, but the program's designed that once you show your student how to access the app, they can do almost everything by themselves. So this is paired with Texas TEKS. So if you are anywhere in Texas and you go to school, you can definitely use this service. If you are outside of Texas, you could still use it as enrichment, but it doesn't count like if you're trying to do homeschool or anything. So that would be the only difference. And then if you're interested in investing in your child's education, you can visit our website, which is right there, stellarstudents.org, or you can email me at Texas, but it's spelled TXStellarStudents@gmail.com.
Oh, I didn't prep that but it's in the blog post, also the email. Yes. Yeah, and the website is beautiful, and it has really good explanations about like, you know, right, like how the program works for ELAR or the math, and you know why it works for different age ranges, and like you talked about earlier, you know, one of your strengths is differentiating and like individualizing, you know, for particular students. And I think for parents, like, I mean, I homeschooled my son for 1st grade, and it was a real wake up call of, you know, just how much complexity there is. And honestly, we did a lot of just like, you know, I have a fistful of museum memberships, and we'd go out, and that's another thing about like homeschool. Even homeschooling during the pandemic is not the same, because
Yes.
you can't go as many places, and it's just you didn't really work
Right.
home that much when we were homeschooling. But
Yeah.
but like what you're offering is you're giving kids that focused attention, like as if
Yes.
they were in your class, and
Yes.
that makes sure that they're moving forward, and that gives parents that peace of mind, that
Yes.
right.
And it also, we start from unit 1 of whatever grade they're in. So that definitely allows any gaps in their understanding to be filled before we catch up to wherever they are in the school year. So we start by filling in the gaps. And then once that's filled, then we can start building upon that foundation.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, that's wonderful. I'm really proud to be able to share that with parents, that there's resources out there that they don't have to feel, like as we talked about earlier about the stress and the worry that teachers and parents are having this year, that Stellar Students is offering an assist,
Yes. Yes.
extra guidance, so that families can get that enrichment for their kids, and they they won't have gaps and they won't be behind.
Yeah. And enrichment without it's not another thing on your plate. It's designed so that you just show them how to log in, and then they just know, click the green arrow until there's no more green arrows, and then you're done for the day.
Yeah. Yeah. No, that's wonderful. Yeah. And I'm really grateful for the blog post too, because these are tips that I think a lot of families can apply at home. And, they're just they seem so common sense once you explain them to us, but then, that's why you're the teacher. You have these things, all these tools at your fingertips, of well, here's how this works. And it's all based on how brains work, how people learn. And right, there's so much science behind it, but these tips, they seem so simple. So
definitely. And if anyone wants to just chat about anything, you can definitely email me there. If you want more tips, always feel free to email me. I'm always working, so I will always respond.
Well, Raya, it's been great talking to you. Do you have any sort of closing thoughts or wishes for parents who might be listening to this and thinking about
definitely. Well, first, thank you for allowing me to come on here and share my services. That is awesome. And then for parents listening, again, just give yourself some grace. It'll be okay. We'll get through this. Take a deep breath. I always tell my kids, take a deep breath and breathe it out. We'll get through this. And if you would like my assistance with that, you know where to find me. But yeah, that's about it. Thank you so much.
Yeah, that's a great message. Thank you so much. I look forward to talking to you again, and someday I'll drive up to Austin and we can hang out.
Yes, definitely. Thank you.
Awesome. Okay, take care.
Thank you. Bye.